Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to take some old hardback books that are obsolete and turn them into book boxes. First I'm going to cut out the inside pages. And you are more than welcome to hollow out that book if you'd like, but my wrist would never have forgiven me if I had of. I'm going to take the inside of the book out, measure it, and then we're going to build walls to make our boxes. You can make these walls out of cardboard, wood. I'm going to use some foam. I'm going to give them a coating of Dixie Belle Slick Stick because they're shiny, and if I put the acrylic paint on, it's going to peel off. So I need a base coat, so this is it. I love this stuff. You can paint it over something that's already been fired ceramic shiny, and it will let you paint right over it without it peeling off. I'm going to give it one base coat of this one, and then I'm going to pour on red on one and brown on the other to give it to cut out the writing. You can see the writing through the paint. And I want some undertones of these colors to come through when I'm finished. And I've got a big bottle of this red, so it was sitting there drying out. It's got gobs of stuff in it, so I thought, well, I'm going to use this up. It's getting pretty old. It's about 2 years old, so. And for some reason, I've lost footage. Well, had I turned the button on the camera on, you would have got the footage where I actually painted it the blue and put the gold over the brown. But since I didn't hit the on button, what you see is what you get. And I'm going to cover the inside with some cardstock. The better way to do this would be to cover the bottom, then build your walls, and then put the top sheet in, because what I ended up doing here is it's going to be a little short. When I opened the box, you could see the transition from the spine to the actual page or top. And if I had waited, I could have made it just a tiny bit longer and give it a score, and it would have folded over and I would have been able to cover that part, but I didn't, and I didn't go back and fix it. I didn't see the point. These are my personal books boxes. They're going to go in here on a shelf for me to look at, so I'm doing 3, and one I left just like it was because I like the way it looks. It looks upscale, and I'll show you that when we get to it, because I didn't paint it or anything. I left it just like it was. And these are just some old books this one was a book of businesses, these two that we had here in our town, and half of them don't even exist anymore. But they were stout and they were hard-backed, and I liked the feel of them. But we don't really need to know about businesses that are gone now. I really wish they would quit printing books that would become obsolete and just put those on digital. I like a good book. I like to hold a book. I like to read by Kindle too, don't get me wrong. But sometimes I like to hold a real actual book to read. And this is some foam that I got in a shelf I ordered. It came to keep the pieces from sliding around the box. And it's really strong. It does not even flatten down when you mash it. So I'm going to use them for my walls of my boxes. And depending on how thick your book was, You can just measure your stack of pages after you take them out. I did two at 1.5 inches, and that third book was no, the two smaller ones were 1 inch, and the bigger book is 1.5 thick. And see where I'm gonna when I open it, and it's not gonna meet that spine. It's not gonna cover that top edge up. I should have waited till it dried and then put that other side in, and that would have went down behind that foam better. I'm using tight bond here to hold it to the spine. And then for the rest of it, I've used 3-in-1 glue on that foam because, you can't just put anything on that foam. It's going to make it pop. And I, of course, had grabbed the wrong piece. And then the next day after that's dried, we're going to start building the box walls. And I'm going to build the 3 sides and then attach it to the 4th and the book at the same time. I'm going to go back and cover the outside with cardstock because this is textured and it's not going to look like book pages. See that big gap at the top there? But I know now if I do another one, I know how to do it now without making it look god awful. And here we're putting the cardstock. I had sheets of 12 by 12, but it didn't quite go all the way around. It was like halfway around. So I'm going to glue one side and put the other side on, make it meet. The plan was to take my charcoal pencils, which I can't find, and kind of color in and make lines and then paint over it. But I couldn't find the charcoal pencils. And had I measured better and used the paper cutter correctly, I would have not had to trim those down. But, well, it is what it is. And here's where we lost the other. So I've put gold metallic paint over the top of that brown. And here I'm using a drawer pull with it's a lion's head with, the little um, ring to its teeth. And these are furniture upholstery tacks. That's what it's called, upholstery tacks. And I started to use the pokey tool to poke the hole in the book. Well, that was a mistake. I'll have to pull out the hand drill in a minute. And of course, these are meant to be nailed into wood, but they're too long, so I trimmed them down so they didn't go quite through the book, and put a drop of glue in each hole and pushed them in. And it's been cold here lately, so of course arthritis is kicking in here, so squeezing it with your hands is not going to work. So I used the pliers, but then I realized I've got 3 sides I can use the pliers on, but the 4th one will not work that way. So I have to make sure I get them down in there. So I got the little hand drill out to make actual holes. Some of them I did okay. Some of them I still didn't quite get right, but I got them all in at the end, so that was good. You can embellish these books with anything. Buttons. Use same color buttons to spell out names or make mosaic scenes on a front. I'm going to use clay on the other one. And that third one I just left like it was. That third one I wanted to put my candy in because my mama has a real bad habit of stealing my candy. And since she's diabetic, we don't need her in it. So she won't bother my books. You can add more or less. I left this one kind of simple because I liked it like that and I thought it was perfect. I didn't even add words to it. I was going to stamp and emboss on top of the book, but I thought, no, I'm not doing that. I like it just like it is. You could put feet on the back of the book to place it on a surface if you'd like. I thought about it, but I thought, nah, it'll be all right. And the 3-in-1 glue does make little spider webs just like your glue gun. And here I've made the clay sailboat, and I don't know what I did with the footage. I guess I didn't hit the button again. Now I want you to look at that sail. I don't know what kind of clay this is. It baked white. It looked white when I put it in. It was white when it came out. But when it dried, it turned that mud. It looked like I took it to the river and drug it in the mud. So I'm going over it with this metallic pearl. It lightened it up. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but I don't know what kind of clay that was. It's the same clay. You see those? Now, the starfish is actually a white clay, and those other three is the rest of that clay. I was trying to get it used up because for some reason it was just awful looking. And here I've put the blue on. I've put three colors. There's like a teal, a light blue, and a dark blue. And if you look at it, you'll see the undertones of that red are just popping through. Here's the plain one. This is the one that'll go on the bookshelf. I wanted it to remain bookish. I put magnets in the corners to hold it closed. There's my new candy box. And I like this book, the way it looks. It looks, I don't know, regal. And yes, I got the whole thing out of whack, but I wasn't changing it. And what got me off was this camera. I put it on a shelf. It's oh, what is this thing called? It has a hutch. It's in a hutch, and all my paints and stuff are up in the hutch. And the table I'm working on is like a old farmhouse hutch table, you used to buy back in the 80s with the white legs and the wood top. But I got cut short because the whole camera just flew off the shelf and landed right on my hand. So don't worry, I cut that part out. I wasn't really worried about some of these colors because I'm going to paint over them anyway with the metallics. I always like to do that because it gives them a little boost. As long as you give it a base coat of something, because the metallics you can see through really good, but it gives it a shine. So that the base color doesn't come through as that color. I don't know how to explain it. It changes the color a little. And I realized I need something in the sky, so I'm going to whip out three seagulls. I was going to make clay seaweed to glue on there, and I thought, no, I ain't doing all that. So I just go back and paint it in a little bit. I just realized there was a pill bottle laying on the table. I take Mama's old medicine bottles and use it for screws and buttons. And I probably shouldn't do that because makes me look like some kind of old druggie. I'm not. I got that from my grandma. I got a whole slew of tins downstairs with Christmas decorations in them. Here I'm adding the ocean foam in a white, it's called pearl metallic. I do like the metallic paints. They just add a little something extra. If you look at the sail, you can see that metallic shine. And even though it's a hideous brown for some reason, it's just enough to give it a sheen so that when you look at it, it doesn't look as bad. Looks like a burnt noodle. And when I sent it through the pasta machine to make it into a sheet, it came out like a pile of sand. I thought I was going to mix some glue into it to make it hold together. I don't know what's wrong with that. I guess maybe it's old, but it came into the pack with the rest of them, and the rest of them have been fine. I'm just painting on some seaweed and kelp and whatever these critters want to play in or eat. And you'll notice when I change brushes, this brush is, I don't know how you would explain it. It's more stiff and it don't have that many bristles. So the paint, if you'll notice, comes out better than it did with the other brush. So sometimes when you're painting stuff, change your brush because different brushes do different things. I was just looking for a smaller brush because I was like, well, it's going to look right. But when I started using it, I realized that it actually paints up better off of those kind of brushes than it did the other ones. And this is just a little pack of 99-cent brushes from, I don't know, Family Dollar or Walmart. I can't remember. But it was just old cheap. I got them to brush some dust off the back of the electronics because I couldn't get into the backs of the little holes, you know. And then, of course, well, naturally, I got a hold of them and started painting with them and forgot about the electronics. I think one of them would have been really good if I'd have made it into a steampunk design. I might do another one later and do that then. It takes me a while and I have to concentrate on what I'm doing because I am no artist. If you look at the bottom edge of that box, you'll see that I've got blue and red paint running together. I do go back and clean up the edges a little bit. I had forgot to paint the blue into the inside edge of the box. And by that time, I had already glued that red paper to it. So I had a mess to fix. Lesson learned, next time paint the whole book first, inside and out, then start on the paperwork. And I'm just giving them all a little pearl white sheen. Not much, just enough to give them a little, you know, glance of the sunlight. All right. And I put a little coating of blue with a brush to give it some lines since I couldn't find the charcoal pencils. And now I'm just pouncing on this gold, and it works better. The metallics work better if you pounce them on instead of using a paintbrush. And I'm hoping the blue shows through just a teeny tiny bit, enough to make it look like the depth of pages, you know, sitting closed. And it worked out pretty good by the time I got finished. I gave it a second coat. I don't think I've videoed that. You see that edge there, red and blue all run together and gold running into it. I do go back and clean that up a little bit. If I had had some nautical rope that was small enough, I would have glued that around the outside edges of that book on the top. I think that would have been nice to frame it. But I didn't think about it until I was done finished with it, and I would have had to order some because I don't have any of that size. And I put 4 flat magnets in the corners of this one and the other one. Not too bad. I like it, but I think I like the lion. I think that's my favorite. And I had accidentally ordered that. I was trying to fix Mama's jewelry boxes. It had 2 lines on it, but that was way too big for the jewelry box, so I had to order some more. Of course, being a creditor, I kept them and didn't send them back. I thought, well, I'll use them for something. All right, so here they are, one at a time. I hope this inspires you to make something out of some books, especially if they're not usable anymore. But don't get rid of your good books. I do love a shelf full of books. Libraries are my favorite. Have a good day. Thank you.